There we are. We are now live. Welcome. Glad you're here. Let me just get my screens in the right order so I can welcome everyone who's here. Welcome to everyone who's watching this on Facebook. And I have a whole group of people who are in Zoom. And if I push this button, you should be able to see all of those people. There are all those people on Zoom. Hey, people on Zoom, would you wave, say hi to each other, say hi to the people?
Hi.
Good
Hi,
morning,
everybody.
everyone.
Hi.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Rabbi Brian, the host here of the Saturday service. This is a different way of looking and doing religion. It's a bit more open source. Um, I don't say anything that I expect everyone to all believe. I just am trying to make a conversation about spiritual religious topics so that we can live better, more fulfilled lives. And I'm going to make my announcement because I'm still excited about this one. 104 days left if you're following the clock until my book launch party. So stay tuned. Next week, we will be in the double digits as to when that's happening. I had a incident happened on I sent my manuscript to the editor, to the developmental editor. I sent it to her on April 1st, and I got an email back from her yesterday saying, Brian, I can't find the file in the usual Dropbox location. And there was a horrible 10 minutes where I couldn't find the file either.
Ooh.
And and then I found the file, and Jane has explained to me in therapy language, they call it a refractory period, where you're still, where I knew I had found the file, like panic was over, but not internally. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Where,
The adrenaline was still running
yeah, say that again, Jeff.
because the adrenaline was still running through your body.
The adrenaline's still running. It doesn't just go from 60 to zero. It went from 0 to 60 really quickly when I couldn't find the file, and I was pacing around like a madman. But it takes a while. Same thing happens when we get angry. Right? We get angry, it takes a while to calm ourselves back down. Just a quick show of hands. How many of y'all have had a situation where you thought you should be able to calm down faster than your body was able to calm down? And that looks like just about everybody. Yeah.
It happens all the time for us on the spectrum.
Yeah.
We can't self-regulate as well when it comes to certain emotion than others. So it can take me days.
Yeah.
Sometimes to come down from an experience.
And let me, if I can, add in a something that we all know, but it's good to be reminded of, that the best thing we can do is be compassionate towards ourselves when we're not able to regulate to how we want to be. Right?
Can I bring something up, Arby? It actually came up in therapy, and it's a really interesting concept that I never really thought of before.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you, Lee.
Instead of dealing with the emotion, the emotion. Who's that
Hold
going?
on, Lee. Say it again. We've got a little bit of.
So instead of dealing with an emotion at the time and labeling it as this particular emotion, it's to touch on it lightly with curiosity.
I love
and
that.
say, why am I feeling like this? Or because I don't get me wrong, I love you dearly, but I don't sometimes understand your concept of being compassionate to yourself. And that, to me, it can be just a bunch of gobbledygook sometimes. But when my therapist, who's also on the spectrum, labeled it as a form of curiosity.
I love that.
Why are you like this? Why do you feel this way? What exactly is going on? And touch on it with curiosity, because curiosity runs my life.
I love that. Thank you, Lee, for saying. Let me restate it. Wouldn't it be a calmer approach if we all got more practiced of saying, "Well, now, isn't that interesting?" Well, look at that. Or you could, if you had, I don't know, you need a beard for doing the chin scratching, but to just go, huh? How about a practice round on that, folks?
Ah.
Can I get a round of, well, isn't that interesting?
Isn't
Boy, isn't that interesting.
That interesting.
Well, that's curious.
That's curious.
That is
curious.
Well, that is right. Somebody comes at you with an insult. Somebody comes at you with you have the ability to say, pick any one of the three that we just did.
No, thank you.
Or no, thank you.
Way to go, Rob.
Perfectly done. Perfectly done. I want to tell you guys a story. I want to tell you guys a story because I did the funniest thing I have done in decades. And I want to tell you about it. I was so, and then if it ties into a moral or a lesson, we'll find out. I call my, I take a dog walk. The dogs and I go for walks frequently. And I decide I'm going to call my cousin David. Cousin David's not there. I get his voicemail. And I call Martin, who David introduced me to. And I'm not really calling Martin for any reason. Martin picks up the phone and says, "Reb Brian, why are you calling me?" I said, "I don't know. I was just calling to say hey." Martin is a mentor of mine. I've known him for years. Very wise. Grew up around the Toronto area speaking Yiddish as his first language. He's a old Jew, fantastic man. I said, "Martin, I don't know. I'm just calling." He said, "Brian, I find that remarkable because I just found out that a dear friend of mine is going to pass in the next few days." And Michael has passed on since this conversation. And he said, "And I didn't know who I could talk to, and here you've called." And it was this wonderful moment, and we're chatting while I'm walking the dogs, and the phone, as phone calls do sometimes, just cut out. And I call him back, and we do that little thing that we all do, or you say, "What was the last thing you heard me say?" And we catch back up, and he's telling me a bit about Mike, and we talk a while longer. I get the dogs back in the house. The phone cuts out again. I call him back because that's what you do. We catch back up to where our conversation was, and we're talking, and our phone call takes a it goes the way phone calls go, and it starts to end. Right? We're wrapping up the conversation, and he brings it back to the beginning of the conversation. He said, "Brian, the fact that you called right now, the timing of it was remarkable. And it reminds me of that old saying of what's the most important thing in comedy." Now, I know when he started saying what's the most important thing, I should have interrupted, right? You guys know, like, if I say what's the most important thing in and you interrupt and you say,
comedy.
but I missed it. So he says,
Yes.
"Reb Brian, here you are. The timing was perfect, and it's just like the most important thing in comedy." And I had missed my cue, so I just hung up.
Oh my.
I hung up, and I knew that he would have to wait, and eventually he wouldn't know I had hung up, and I laughed myself silly. I did call him back Wednesday night. I called him back Wednesday night, and we laughed about the fact that I did something so hilarious as I did.
You must have trusted him pretty well, because I don't know if everyone would get that.
Correct. Martin also is the man who I had never met him when he came to Los Angeles, and this is the days pre-Zoom, and I didn't know what he looked like, but he was flying into LA and needed a ride from the airport to a hotel where he was giving a talk. And I've never met the man. I don't know exactly what he looks like, but I took a giant piece of poster board and I wrote on the poster board, and I stood there waiting for him. And all I had written on the board was Godot.
Oh,
I was just for that meme and send it to you.
Fortunately, he asked me if it was me, because he could have walked straight by. There was no fail stop in. Okay. I do want to say one thing about jokes. I heard a joke recently. I got texted a joke on a group thread that I'm on, and it was a racist joke. And it wasn't that it wasn't funny. I laughed, but I responded back, "Ouch," because it was a racist joke, and I'm going to tell you because I did something I'm proud of. And I thought of the people I could call. Like, I have a few dark friends who might enjoy this joke. And I thought, it finally dawned on me that I can't tell this joke. Not even to my most trusted, intimate friends. Because to tell the joke would mean that I was all right with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been easier had I told the joke, because then, this is a little bit weird, but it would mean if I told the joke now, it would somehow give me permission to having told racist jokes in the past. If I continued the policy, changing the policy made me realize that all the ones that I had done in the past were wrong. It made me uncomfortable. So I just wanted to share that, not as a holier than thou kind of thing, but boy, I maybe more as a mea culpa, that I realized I had done something I wish I hadn't done.
Saying it's a racist joke, probably
We got a bunch of voices at once. Betsy, you go first, hon.
You just have to accept that you have grown, and you've got to forgive the past self.
Yeah, and hey, there's a word that we just used that I could say, and I could say, well, isn't that curious? Isn't that interesting? And instead of, you're absolutely right, Betsy, of just looking at it and with a little bit of distance of, that's something. Anne, are you trying to say something? Your light is lighting up. No. Okay. I was gonna try something a little bit different today. Give me a second. I want to try something a little bit different today. And I'm feeling a little bit awkward about it, so pardon me for that. I wanted to ask that's why I made notes here, so I wanted to ask people to give, and the word testimonial is a weird word, but I wanted to ask for some testimony. It's a weird phrase, but of what is it that you have gotten out of coming to this group? And I pre-stacked the deck a little bit, and I asked Meg, I can't see where Meg is. There's Meg. I asked Meg if she would start this conversation up. And what is it that you get or have gotten from coming to this Saturday service? What is it done or doing for you? And Meg, do you mind starting us out?
No, I don't mind. I like getting it over with, actually. You need to know that I'm over 65 by a bit. live in Virginia, and have been in a liberal religion for some time. I was raised in a Christian religion. I spent some time with a lay-led congregation, which means no clergy. And I have attended Rabbi Brian's service since it started, and I have found it life-changing. I've learned how to be kinder to others and to myself. I've learned the importance of listening, really listening, not thinking, what am I going to say in response to this type thing. I'm a fairly direct person, as most of you know. My mother even knew, don't ask a question you don't want the answer to. And I've learned how to do that in a kinder, nicer way. And still own what I have said, but yet the other person may not feel like they were lambasted. I've got some tools to guide me in doing all of the above, and some that have just improved my everyday life. I learned when I realized I've made a mistake how to handle it and turn it into an opportunity for change or just insight. And I've also learned how to apologize. I've learned the importance of boundaries. This has made a huge difference in my life. I've received some information about religion and theology and spirituality that has encouraged me to very actively explore my system of beliefs. I'm now spending like 3 or 4 hours a week thinking about those other thoughts. I've made some friends. There's a woman in Colorado. We both quilt and like animals, so we chat probably once a month. There's a woman in Washington State. She and I share how to be nice to our husbands who don't always remember that we've just told them what time we're going out. I had a major family crisis in January and really felt loved and cared for during that period, which really helped. And I try, and I think I'm able to return some of the same. And probably a large reason for coming to Saturday service, and I do make a regular donation, is the humor and seeing a clergy person demonstrate all of the above with grace and kindness. I can't believe how many times I've seen the rabbi say, oops, and he knows how to deal with it. So I'll be continuing to come, and if anybody has any questions, I'll answer them.
Thank you, Meg. I appreciate you. I had not intended for you to create a full speech, and I will admit I had a little bit of a hard time taking that all in.
Rabbi, I'm from graduate. I took graduate school. We do speeches.
Wonderful. So somebody had said to me in the last week, thank you, Meg.
You're welcome.
They said they come back. Oh, how did they say it? Because they realize that it's about that the totality of everything that we talk about every week is that every week we're talking about love. And that's all that we got. That every week we're talking about love and loving other people and loving ourselves. And I sent out a meme yesterday, and I'm assuming all of you are on the newsletter, and you all got it. It was Carl Sagan's quote about creatures small such as us, in order to deal with the vastness of the universe, must find love. I'm going to hold on one second. This is up in my office. I don't know that I've shown it to you in a while. Hold on, focusing. There we are.
Like that.
That's the repetitive theme we keep hitting is love. Love, 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 love. Okay. I'm going to put this quote here. It's a quote from Rumi. He said the following: "It is by our failures that we know we are loved. It is by our failures that we know we are loved." I want to talk about, do you remember when we talked about evil and I made the rule that we're not allowed to use the word evil because I didn't think we all knew what we meant when we were using the word? And so we had a wonderful discussion and we had to figure out other words for it. I want to talk about this quote, and I'm going to show you a word, and I want us to not use this word in our discussion because the word is too loaded, I'm afraid. I want us to avoid using this word. This is what we're talking about, but don't use the word, please. It is by our failures that we know we are loved. It is by our failures that we know we are loved. Help me out. Who knows that they're loved by their failures?
When they fail, they generally get feedback from people who love them.
I'm going to ask if we can switch from third person they, switch from second person you, and go to first person I. I know that I'm loved because when I mess up,
someone forgives me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it depends on the situation.
Go ahead, help Ray.
There are times when I have failed and there I felt no love. There was no love there.
Absolutely right.
So
Absolutely.
It depends on where, it depends, as always, where you are and the group that you're with.
I'm going to flash us back a few weeks, and we talked about this word. And we said that shame exists when the environment we are in is not capable of loving us for who we are. I'm going to say that again, and I would love for you to consider learning some version of that phrase so that you have it locked in. Shame exists when the environment we are in is not capable of loving us as we are. And Ray, you're exactly right. That's the flip side of this. When we do something and the environment does not love us, we feel this. Absolutely.
And see, I think failures is a loaded word because your failure, my failure, may not be a failure at all.
Amen.
But the people who are looking at it, the environment, may look at it to be so. If you're being a kind, considerate, caring person in an environment where you're not supposed to be that, then the other people look at that as a failure.
Correct.
But in actuality, it is not a failure. But you sure as hell don't get any kudos for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Moja, I just saw you have a whole bunch of people there too. Happy Passover, my friends.
Happy Passover, yeah. This is part of my family members. I'm with them.
Chag Sameach.
Wonderful.
Yeah, part of
Happy holiday for those not
Haxen.
aware.
Yeah,
Oh, what a beautiful
Well,
family.
thank you. It is Passover for Jews throughout the
Yeah.
world, and this is the Jewish community that we're seeing right here. That's some of the Jewish community in Uganda, and it's wonderful that you all should be with us. So I wonder, and let's see. This might not fit, but I have a feeling it will. As this is Passover season, and the theme is freedom. Anyone have any wise ways of connecting freedom to what we're talking about here?
It is by our freedom that we truly know ourselves.
Is
Freedom of
from
speech.
the freedom from other people's thoughts? You said the freedom of speech?
Mhm.
Emily, you have a
Yes.
thought there? Your light went on. No, you were Folks, I'm an old high school teacher. You put your hand up to scratch your hair, and I'm going to think you had something you wanted to say.
We have the freedom to make mistakes.
That's it, Jeff. I think that's it. Say that again, please.
We have the freedom to make mistakes without the fear of making a mistake that, oh my God, I can't do this because it might be a mistake, and I won't do it because it might be a mistake, versus the freedom to do something,
Correct.
realize it's a mistake, and then correct our behavior.
If we know we are loved, let's see if I can continue your thought, Jeff. If I know I am loved, I am less fearful of making mistakes. I'm less fearful of failure. I'm less fearful of shame, because I know at the end of the whole thing, I've chosen love.
Aaron was raising his hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, it's about approaching the world as ability to learn and being free.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, something bad's gonna happen because I learn, and that's what I've realized recently, that being curious and learning,
Right, and
you
that
can
brings
learn.
us right back, Aaron. That's exactly right. It brings us right back to something goes wrong, and we have the option of saying, well, isn't that interesting? We have the option. The option is freedom. The Greek word to choose leads us to this word. The Greek word for choice is heresis. It is the word heretic. Is to choose. We have the freedom to choose what we believe. It doesn't matter how many people tell you that you're a piece of doo-doo. You have the freedom to know better. Harold, Connie, yes, go ahead.
I want to back up a little bit to what you
Please.
said a couple of weeks ago, is you don't make mistakes on purpose. You don't know you made a mistake until somebody points it out to you. I wonder if that doesn't apply to this. How do I know if I failed unless somebody points it out to me? Do I not meet my own standards, or do I not meet somebody else's standards? How do I know that if I don't know it when I'm going in?
Well,
Sometimes
I hold on one second, Betsy. I think, Harold, I know I made a mistake about telling the jokes I should not have been telling. I came to realize that without anyone outside me telling me that.
I will disagree with that. You got a joke in the email and you recognize, something tells me this is wrong. You wouldn't have come to that thought had you not gotten that joke in the email.
Okay, fair enough. Betsy, go ahead. Thank you, Harold.
Oh, well, sometimes you know when you fall flat on your face.
Amen.
Something.
Amen.
Go ahead. Oh, and Ron, do you want to elaborate? Hold on, John. I apologize, but thematically, Ron, go ahead.
Oh, I soaked in a hot tub with my men's group for an hour and didn't drink anything. And when I got out, I flat on my face, fractured a couple of teeth and split my lip, which is healing nicely.
Oh,
Dennis fixed it. Dennis fixed it up. But, I made a mistake. I didn't drink any water while I was soaking in a hot tub for an hour. That was a really dumb thing to do.
oh.
Ron, talk to us about the trajectory of you making the mistake and feeling, oh, what an idiot am I? Or did that not occur?
It took a little while to figure out that's why I was laying face down on the floor.
And how are you doing with forgiving yourself?
Oh, I've accepted that, as you get older, your sense of thirst fades somewhat. And I realize that I'm not as indestructible as I was 30 years ago.
Yeah. And for us all to forgive ourselves our mistakes. I love it. John, go ahead. Thank you, Ron.
Going back to the original Rumi.
I'm going to put that on the screen. Go ahead.
So often the reaction seems to be the whole thing about when one is loved or all those kind. It seems to trend towards external. And I think
say a little more. I don't understand.
Being the whole thing about making a mistake and being loved, a lot of the comments seem to focus on that's the reaction of other people. When I wonder if the core of that is really on ourselves.
I love that. Okay, that's going to give me
because
a little.
Too often we look in when we judge ourselves. That can either invite or that affirms whatever it is, what we feel is coming from other people, when the source, I think, is the source is within ourselves first.
I love it. So let me preach for a moment. Permission to preach, folks?
Permission granted.
Permission granted.
Okay. I would like each of you to take a moment. If you can see yourself on your Zoom screen, please do. And if that's too triggering for you, don't. But if you would look at yourself for a moment and see yourself as fully loved for exactly who you are at this moment. If you can see yourself, maybe it's an internal seeing. You don't use the Zoom screen, but you just think of yourself as loved, as loved exactly, not despite who you are, but because of who you are. I found this with Jane, and she's found it with me, that there are times where it's exactly the thing that annoys us about the other, that it's not despite that we love them, it's because of that we love them. And I see a small smile creeping up on a number of your faces as I'm talking. And I see a number of those smiles go from smiling to a little bit of, no, I dare not feel that. Am I right? Am I hitting you about some of you? Yeah. What if we loved ourselves?
Yeah.
What if we loved ourselves? There's another quote from Rumi who said that even after all this while, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. And a love like that illuminates all life. What if we loved ourselves? What if we loved ourselves with that crazy, ridiculous amount of love? And the points where we aren't feeling it, we instead said, or isn't that curious? Or, I wonder why that is.
I like that.
Everyone willing to try it?
Yeah.
Well, let's try that. I'm going to take a break for a moment and we're going to move to some prayers. Joe, I appreciate you being you and you being willing to take up reading our prayer list for today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being appreciated as me. This is the Love and Light list for this morning. Maria, Galan, Krista, Tamana, Hugo, Lena, Amy, Marcella, Francis, Stephanie, Wendy, the Cook family, Beverly Kennedy, Roger M., Priscilla and Milton Nathanson, and anyone who's in your heart that isn't named.
Well, let's take 1 minute of time for prayers and we'll start that right here on my clock. We'll do a minute of silence until 38. Well, thank you all. I want to share some idea that goes along with all of this. I started playing the French horn at age 49. My first French horn teacher was mean. I laughed. He asked me, why just play the note, sustain a note for 2 full seconds. And I couldn't hold a one note for 2 full seconds. And I started to giggle because I couldn't hold one note for 2 seconds. French horn is really, really a persnickety instrument. And I start to giggle and he was put off by my giggling because he wanted me to take the French horn more seriously. There's no value to harshness. There is nothing that harshness does that loving firmness doesn't do better. I fired that French horn teacher, and I found another one. Which is the voice you have in your head? And do you have the authority to fire that French horn teacher? And say, I ain't paying you no more to yell at me. I'm a grown person. And instead, oh my God, my French horn teacher and I, Thursday, she realized she had forgotten to give me an exercise to do as a beginning warm-up, that I'm supposed to have been doing this for, like when you start playing the French horn, you're supposed to do long notes. I never knew I was supposed to warm up on long notes. I've been taking lessons from her for over 2 years, and we just realized this, and we start to laugh.
It's good.
It's a much better French horn teacher for me.
And could it be that your original teacher didn't realize it wasn't the French horn you weren't taking seriously, it was yourself?
Oh, I love you. I was taking the French horn seriously. I just wasn't taking me seriously. It reminds me, oh my God, I haven't thought about this in a long while. I'm maybe in 7th or 8th grade, 6th grade. I don't know. We're in the park and I'm up to bat. And I don't know how it happens physiologically, but I became coordinated later in life. Like I was like somewhere around 17, I started to be able to play tennis well, and my hand-eye coordination caught up to my age. But whatever grade I'm in, when we're playing softball in the park, I strike out. And I remember a friend of mine yelling at me because I was giggling again, because I was not taking, Brian, take this more seriously. You're not taking this seriously. And he conflated me being angry and bitter with me taking it seriously. And I think this brings us all the way back to where we started with Lee, which is when the thing doesn't go the right way, when things aren't the way we want, can we look at it with curiosity? And do we have to be harsh? Well, we know the answer. Do we have to be harsh? No, we don't have to be harsh. There's something very intimate about silence, and I appreciate you all sharing that for this moment. Go ahead, John.
It seems to me that when we look at failures, our own failures particularly, the selfish point of view is we feel bad because the universe has not aligned itself in the way we think it should. We have overly grandiose concept of ourselves. If we think we're going to succeed all the time, that's only going to happen if the universe holds me in perfect place.
Amen. And maybe we're not that important. It does.
I think that's very true.
It reminds me of something, and then we're going to get to announcements. There's a key, and maybe next week we'll get back into the paradoxicality. And we had remembered this when we talked about the qualities of a spiritual life, and it was this image. We said, it's not about me, and it is about me. That the opposite of something can also be true. I think that's what you're getting at. Is how ludicrous that we think that it's all about us. There's a Jewish tradition ascribed to Rabbi Simcha Punim of Pasichta, and I'm just showing off by saying his full name. And he said that in our pockets, he said, in our pocket, we should always have 2 phrases at the ready. I'm going to zoom in on this. He said, paradoxicality, we should always remember, I am but dust and ashes. We should always remember we are nothingness. And at the same time, we should always remember, for my sake, the world was created. And that they're both equally true.
I think his name is interesting. It's Lucky Face.
Yeah. So Simcha Punim means happy face. That was the guy. That was what he was known as. It was a different world. Rita, you have something to add?
Yes, I tend to think of when things happen to me that I have a choice. If I can either see it as a soap opera or as a situation comedy.
Amen. Right.
I'd rather laugh.
Right. Which one is it today? And there are days that it is harder than others. I want to make a few announcements. My first announcement, I make this one. I missed it, I think, last week, but this is very important. Come on, focus in. There it is. It's okay not to be okay. Please remember that. If you're finding yourself in a soap opera, that's all right. It's okay to not be okay. Focus. There I am. If you are new to the Religion Outside the Box community, stick around. There will be a little rabbi waiting room after the service, and if you want to come by and say hello, I'm going to be there. We'll have other rooms up. We'll explain those in a moment. If you don't make a contribution to Religion Outside the Box on a regular basis, would you please consider doing so? These little fun coins, these were sent out to monthly donors a few years ago. There's a new gift that's going out to monthly donors. If you make a monthly donation, if it's already come through this month, you might have gotten a note from me confirming your address, so you can get, there's a little prize that goes out to regular donors. It's really, it's always something very simple that can fit in the mail, but it's just a way for me to say, I thank you for your support of what I'm doing here. We're going to take about 8 minutes and go into random friendship groups. Alex, are you able to set us up with random friendship groups?
I can do that.
So we're going to just take a few minutes to discuss. Let's do 8 minutes. We're going to have 8 minutes in small groups to discuss this idea of failure, of loving yourself through failure. You should be getting an invitation on your screen to break into a separate group. And if you would join there, and then you will automatically be returned to us here. You don't need to participate in those groups, but we wanted to see what it's like for you to have a chance to discuss with friends. And Aaron, it looks like I just got you, Lexi, and Anne's on audio only. Lost Carol. And there goes Lexi.
So I just set a 7-minute timer for us.
Thank you so much. Aaron, you're still here. You don't have to share anything, but if you would like to, you can. Just know that what you're saying is
he just left.
He made it to the other room. I do have a chat here from my son is so loving. He's 20 now and tells me what a great mom I am, even though I didn't do everything perfectly. Oh, I love that. And I know who you are. That's going by the name Spring Phoenix now, and that's who you are, as a phoenix, someone who comes back through the ashes. So that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. So also delighted to see that you are on where are you watching this on YouTube? So thank you. Anyone who's watching on YouTube Live. Oh, I have a whole bunch of people who are streaming. Look at that. I got people who are streaming on Facebook. People who are, got thumbs ups and hearts happening. Those don't get broadcast through except on my screen. But thank you for doing that. Good. Oh, Spring Phoenix is still there sending. There's the one I can see. Thank you, my friend. Oh, I hope you're having a delicious Passover. Speaking of which, Alex, I'll tell you, because it's like you're my Ed McMahon in this situation.
So,
Janie just learned a few days ago in preparation for Passover, unconsciously for her, it was the same timing. She just learned pressure points, and just like I'm watching her, and she's pushing on her belly, and she said that she found a TikTok or a YouTuber or something on gut pressure points that help you to poop. So
yes, I knew about those.
You knew about those. I laughed at her. I said, I don't need any of that. And then the matzah caught up with me this morning.
Yeah.
Why is matzah so? Like, I'd like an answer for that one. Why is matzah so binding in a way that like pasta is not?
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm finding all sorts of interesting Passover coincidences this year, or, realizing things about Passover, like, why do we have the second night Seder, right? It's to get rid of the leftovers.
Right. Did I tell you the reason about opening the door for Elijah?
I'd love to hear it.
So I heard this from Emmett. I went to rabbinical school. I never heard this. But apparently in the opening the door for Elijah part of it evolved in medieval Europe, where Jews were under scrutiny for kidnapping Gentile children. And so the magistrates made it that the Jews had to open their doors and make it that anybody could walk in and see what was going on inside. So I was like, well, I never heard that story. That's fantastic. I mean, not fantastic in a good way, but fantastic in a learning kind of way. And I see your Spring Phoenix. I see your thing that you made the matzah recipe. Alex has been kicking ass with the matzah recipe and gave me the great idea of using the Mixmaster, the KitchenAid with the flat beater. Boy, can that mix that little bit of water into the dough so much better than I could do it by hand. So
yeah,
it came out much drier this way than I was able to do it.
Yeah, my matzah this year actually came out surprisingly good. I'd made it in the past, and I was like, well, this is pretty good. I like it. It tastes better than regular matzah, but I didn't quite have the texture that I was,
right. It wasn't as dry.
And I found using the mixer and putting the entire amount of water that's in your recipe in, it makes a much stickier dough. But when you roll it out, it comes out just thin.
Good. So if you're just joining us, Patricia and Greg, I don't know if they're bouncing back or.
I think Patricia and Greg are just joining us.
Oh, well, hi, Patricia and Greg. You are. Everyone else is in small groups right now. So, what's our timer looking like, Alex?
We have 2 minutes before I call the group back.
We have 2 minutes until they all come back. So, welcome. We are just sharing matzah recipes.
Mm-hmm.
Which not everybody makes their own matzah. So, oh, and I found 4 boxes of matzah from 2019 in the cabinet above my fridge.
Is it still good?
Nothing can go wrong with matzah.
Did you taste it?
It's not going to taste any worse than it did in 2019. It's matzah. Oh, wait, and I got some other comments here. Maybe the Israelites were cranky because they were all bunged up. Yes, that's yes, constipate. The joke is when Moses said, "Let my people go," it was meant in different ways. Sorry, Alex.
Oh, you should not have said that. I just swallowed coffee. I almost spit it all over my computer.
No, don't do that. We know. And then I got here. Great idea. I didn't change my name. Just trying to be someone incognito on social media so students can stalk me. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, my dear friend Aviva, I can use your name then, and we will not have your students stalking you. Oh, and hello, my friend Zach. Zach, we were just talking matzah recipes. I don't know if you were live on Facebook while we were doing that. And if you're going to be in New York in May, I can bring you some leftover homemade matzah. You just say the word. Alex, how are we doing on time there?
We have 26 seconds.
All right. Patricia and Greg, I'll fill you in on what we had been talking about. We talked about seeing if we can't develop a curious stance when things don't go the way that we wish they had, and the ability to say, well, isn't that interesting? Or, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Or, as opposed to fighting with how things are, is just taking them in with a little bit more curiosity. That's
Good
a summary
point.
of the first 40-something minutes of.
Very good point.
Yeah. Well, isn't that interesting?
Being an introvert, I've been using that a lot as a pause so I can get my thoughts together, as opposed to, well, it never, things don't just blurt out of me normally. So
Yeah. Of just taking it a little slower.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patricia. Here come the people. Oh, so the breakout rooms automatically close. They have the choice to have left earlier if they wanted.
Yeah, I sent the close
Thank
signal
you,
in, and they will be back in about 15 seconds.
I gotcha. Here come back everybody.
Hi, Lee.
Yeah.
Hi, April.
Hey.
Want to use set of lungs? I don't know to anybody.
Welcome
Again, Brian.
Welcome back, everybody. It looks like
Mr. Carter.
okay.
Yeah. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter.
You. Hey.
Mr. Carter.
Okay, folks. I appreciate everyone coming back. And is there any giant aha moments that came out of your group that you want to share in 10, 15, 20 seconds?
Yes.
Go for it, Carol.
I'm so pleased that in Uganda, they also sing the Manashtana and Dayenu.
Amen.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Amen.
Wonderful. Anything else to share? So
I felt guilty. I felt guilty that I got cut off from you because I forgot to hit the join. That's why I was with you.
Okay,
I was like,
Aaron, that gives us a perfect opportunity to try 3 different things. Everyone try this along with me. Well, isn't that interesting?
yeah,
Isn't that
interesting?
Well, that's curious.
That's
curious. And then finally, whether or not you have a beard, let's all try this one.
Very interesting.
You know, you make me almost want to grow a beard.
Folks, I'm going to
use that beard.
Put everyone back on the
For
screen
those
for
of
a
you old
moment.
enough to remember,
I'm
think
going
of
to
Artie
stop.
Johnson peering through the bushes on Laughing.
Right.
Don't.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Very
So,
interesting.
folks, wave goodbye to everybody on the online on the recording.